Would you look at this? So, on the anniversary of JFK being assassinated, one of the headline stories in the news is that JFK's granddaughter says that she has terminal cancer. And, like I said, most people probably wouldn't get this joke, but when you read this article, you find out that she's 35 years old. And, that's interesting considering JFK just so happened to be the 35th president. And notice that JFK died at the age of 46. JFK was the first Catholic president, the first president to be Catholic. And in this language of gematria, notice how if you write out the word Catholic, it equals 35 and also 46. Would you believe that the second Catholic president just so happened to be Joe Biden? Notice Joe Biden, the 46th president. Another interesting thing in relation to Catholic is that if you look up JFK, he actually met the Pope just before he died in 1963. He met him on July 2nd. And oddly enough, if you go from JFK's birthday, like May 29th, and you go to the date July 2nd, just so happens to be 35 days after his 46th birthday. So he met the Pope 35 days after his 46th birthday, and then he would later go on to die. Of course, years later, that Pope would go on to die, and that Pope died on the date August 6th, which, is 35 days after that same day that he met JFK in history. Of course, even more weird is the fact that Pope Paul VI there, he died in 1978, and 1978 was when Joe Biden was 35 years old. Look at that, November 20th, 1942. That means Joe Biden was 35 years old when that Pope died. Even crazier is the fact that, supposedly Lee Harvey Oswald was the guy who shot JFK, right? Look at his birthday, October 18th. Let's go from October 18th to the day that JFK was assassinated, right? October 18th, 1963. How many days do you think it's going to be? Oh, 35 days. So Lee Harvey Oswald even assassinated JFK 35 days after his own birthday, the 35th president, who met the Pope 35 days after his 46th birthday. He died age 46. The word Catholic equals 35, 46. He's the first Catholic president. The second one is Joe Biden, the 46th president. Joe Biden also had a son, Beau Biden, who died at the age of 46 from cancer, right? Beau Biden. He died at the age of 46. And, there's a whole lot more that goes along with this, but Joe Biden's also had a first wife that died in a car crash, and her birthday is July 28th, which just so happens to be the same day as Jackie Kennedy's birthday, right? Jackie Kennedy and Joe Biden's first wife have the same birthday. And Joe Biden's first wife died 144 days after her birthday, and JFK died 144 days after meeting the Pope, and it's a big old number. I'm not going to go on to that other tangent here, but just know it's absolutely done, by the numbers. Also, remember JFK Jr.? JFK Jr., right? The son of JFK. He just happened to die on July 16th, 1999. That means that he died 35 years after his father, and July 16th just so happens to be 4 months and 6 days before November 22nd, the day that his father had died in history. So let's just type that out. July 16th, 1999. 7/16/1999. And we'll go 11/22/1963. Look at that. 35 years after his father, he dies. JFK Jr. dies 35 years after his father. And let's see here. 1963. And them dates are also separated by 4 months and 6 days. 46, 35, and 46, just like the word Catholic, right? Further, in this language of gematria, if you write out JFK Jr., just so happens to equal 35 also. Even more weird is the fact that JFK Jr., notice his birthday, November 25th? That's 3 days after JFK was assassinated, right? The only living children that JFK had when he was assassinated was this guy and Carolyn Kennedy, right? And notice her birthday, November 27th. So that means it was 5 days after JFK was assassinated. So JFK died 3 days before one of his kids' birthdays and 5 days before his other kid's birthday. 35, 3, and 5. And I mean, there's a ton of other things. I'm going to leave the video pretty short here, but I just wanted to just point out the obvious 35, 46 stuff going on with the Catholic narrative. And, you know, JFK was also born on the 149th day of the year, May 29th, which is the 35th prime number is 149 even. And, you know, remember his brother RFK also got assassinated? And RFK, oddly enough, shares a birthday with Joe Biden. Like, what are the odds of that? RFK, and look at RFK in Gematria. RFK, 35 and 46. What are the odds, you know? And remember, RFK got assassinated, and he died on June 6th, 66, and, you know, his real name's Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy equals 66. He's supposedly killed by a guy named Sirhan, that equals 66. I mean, and he died at 1:44 in the morning. Remember 1:44? That's how many days that JFK died after meeting the Pope. That's how many days that Joe Biden's first wife died after her birthday, which is the same birthday as Jackie Kennedy. And I mean, remember in 2017, Donald Trump met the Pope on the 144th day of the year, which was his 4th month and 4th day as the president. If you write out 44, just so happens to equal 144. Abe Lincoln, once upon a time, had a dream that he was going to get shot 10 days before he got shot on April 14th, 14/4, like 144. That means his dream was on 4/4. The first president to die in office was William Henry Harrison. He died on 4/4. And, you know, in relation to this 35-year-old granddaughter of JFK having cancer just happens to equal 44. It's kind of interesting. So is, you know, so does chemo, so does cigarettes, like. But we'll leave it there. Just real simple. I don't know. Somebody took my chair, so it's kind of uncomfortable to stand here. So just wanted to make a short video showing this, you know, stupid story. Why we get a story about JFK's granddaughter on the anniversary of JFK assassination in the news, and then she's 35 years old, and JFK is all about 35. So hopefully it'll inspire people to start looking into this, because it happens every single day. Actually, I want to add one last point. So we recently got a new pope who is from America, and he's from Chicago. The new pope, Pope Leo. And notice in the language of Gematria, if you write out Chicago, it also equals 35 and 46. And this guy became the pope on May 8th. If you go from May 8th to that guy's birthday, September 14th, just so happens to be 4 months and 6 days, like 46. Of course, his birthday at the Vatican, they would write it as 14/9, like 149. Remember, JFK was born on the 149th day of the year, which is the 35th prime number. And, you know, there's a ton more to this, but, like, he became Pope on 5/8. And, you know, if you write out Pope Leo, XIV, just so happens to equal 58. But just want to, you know, it's just interesting that the Pope's from Chicago, that equals 35 and 46, and he became the Pope 4 months and 6 days before his birthday. And I'm interested to see if, you know, Donald Trump ever meets this Pope, and like how many days away it is from their birthdays and such. So I bet it will be connected to this same narrative that I'm talking about, but maybe they won't even ever meet. Who knows? But just another interesting connection to 35 and 46 in relation to Catholics.